Welcome back, everybody, to another Purpose Serves, the podcast episode. It's your legendary host, Darryl Wingfield. If you're new to this podcast is simply about inspiring you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be by innovating and improving the human experience. And there's two simple ways that you can do that. The main way is to love the Lord your God with all your might, and the second way is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And by doing that, you will be making this world a greater place. You will be making this world a better place. So, on the last podcast episode, we left off on talking about the five steps to like a plan of action for accomplishing a goal. And that being creating a goal, then making a plan for the goal that you just created for yourself, finding the setting for that goal, taking action, and adjusting to the goal as you take action towards it, adjusting the plan and all of that. And today, in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about duality and service. We are going to be talking a huge part about the Bifarious System, the Twofold System, and that's where the duality is going to come from. We're going to be talking about the five obvious philosophical facts. And yeah, let's get into it. So, the natural world. So within this twofold system that I've been talking about, the Bifarious system of Bifarious, I want to highlight first and foremost the natural world. I contextualize the natural world with it simply being based off of the definition of what natural is, and that's existing in or caused by nature, and not made or caused by humankind. And anything that's made by us, we can say that is artificial. But observation is key for this. Observation is key for life in general. And lack of observation is where a lot of problems stem from. In fact, I want to read you guys something. I'm going to put this book back. So, I was reading this the other day in the Autobiography of Nikola Tesla. And he said something interesting. And I'm going to get back to it by the end of this episode. And in this section, it was talking about lack of observation. It says that this is what he puts. The by far greater number of human beings are never aware of what is passing around and within them, and millions fall victims of disease and die prematurely just on this account. The commonest everyday occurrences appear to them mysterious and unexplicable. One may feel a sudden wave of sadness and rake his brain for an explanation when he might have noticed that it was caused by a cloud cutting off the rays of the sun. He may see the image of a friend dear to him under conditions which he construes as very peculiar, when only shortly before he has passed them in the street or seen his photograph somewhere. When he loses a collar button, he fusses and swears for an hour, being unable to visualize his previous actions and locate the object directly. Deficient observation is merely a form of ignorance and responsible for the many morbid notions and foolish ideas prevailing. The only reason why I read this is because it makes a good point, and Nikola Tesla makes a good point in stating where a lot of our ignorance comes from and his lack of observation. Where I disagree with him in this regard is stating that he don't believe in the spiritual and what's psychological. And somebody that opposed them to this point of view is Carl Jung, who I always mention on his platform all the time, especially as of recently. And that's a part of a dual nature as well. Carl Jung investigated what was happening in our psyche, inside our mind, which is our inner life. And Nikola Tesla was observing what was happening outside, being an inventor and engineer. But looking at the macrocosm and the microcosm of the world, it's important to understand that without certain things coming into being and playing its part, we as human beings can't exist. So, water is very crucial to our survival and us being who we are. If you take away water, human beings would no longer exist. Trees came before human beings, and if you remove the trees off the face of the planet, we as human beings, we can't exist. If you take away the air and the oxygen off of this planet, we as human beings wouldn't exist. And not only that, the earth wouldn't be what the earth is if those things didn't exist. It would be another terrestrial planet that would be inhabitable for a decent amount of life, and not necessarily just us as human beings. And we live in an ecosystem where everything has to play its part and everything is serving a purpose. So this is why it's important to observe natural life for what natural life actually is, because it all plays a part. It all plays a part. And the universe implies within the given name of itself that this is one thing with many parts. So keep that in mind. The universe is one thing, but within this one thing, it has many parts that's cooperating together to form this one thing. An example of that, which the macrocosm of all macrocosms is the universe, and the microcosm within the universe would be the Earth, or the solar system would be the macrocosm, and the Earth would be the microcosm. The macrocosm of a tree is like the microcosm of a leaf. And humanity, that's a macrocosm compared to you as an individual, as a person. And you have your own microcosm. And this moves me on to the next thing, the personal world. And I base this off of the definition of what personal actually is. And the definition of personal is of affecting or belonging to a particular person rather than to anybody else. So, the one thing that I'm embarking on, and it like hit me heavy, and it became clear as day, and something that I was discussing with a close friend of mine, Johnny, who has been playing a huge part in my life for these last like couple of years. When I first started doing my the Serve Your Purpose lecture classes, it was done in his barbershop. One of the earlier podcast episodes that I had, if you go on YouTube and watch it, it was done in his barbershop. Shout out to Catal Barbershop. And shout out to Johnny for all that he's done. Not only for me, but a whole bunch of people. I have to give a special shout out to that man. Special dude. But during that time, he gave me a book. And this book was highlighting philosophical things. And the one thing that it pointed out was the mind and body problem, which is something that's been very crucial to me. And this has came back up to the surface for me, with me putting together presentations for future notice, and me starting back up doing these classes again, which is like all the material that I've been talking about within the last 2 or 3 podcast episodes. I've been going over a lot, but it's just me breaking down these intricate things like more and more, because I think that it's highly important that people not only understand themselves thoroughly, but they should also understand the world that's going on around them just as thoroughly. And what's going on inside of us is a spiritual matter, and what's going on outside of us is a natural matter, and they both go hand in hand. But what's natural is more so associated with the physical, and what's internal is more so associated with what's spiritual and what's happening within our soul. And we need communication with our soul in order to know what the actual deal is of the nature of who we are and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to maneuver in the world and what's really going on. I can't stress this enough. This is spiritual warfare that we are experiencing right now. This is a battle versus, like, good versus evil. And what side do you want to be on? There's order behind this, and order is associated with the good. Chaos and disharmony is associated with evil. And wholeness. That's what I said the goal was from the beginning, from that monad episode. That's the goal, wholeness. And within wholeness, you have to understand and recognize the chaos and disorder within yourself in order to get through that and find the good, the true good, and express that out into the world. And if you're looking outside of yourself for that good, you're only going to come across darkness if you don't recognize it within yourself first and foremost. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is located inside of you, where your heart is. So, moving on. The mind and body problem. So, these are the 5 obvious philosophical facts that I'm about to read off to you guys. The first one is you have a mind and a body. The second one is these normally work together. The third one is your body is physical and thus publicly observable. The fourth, your mental life is essentially private. Therefore, number 5, you have privileged access to the contents of your own mind. And this brings me back to reading the definition of what personal is. A personal definition is of affecting or belonging to a particular person rather than to anyone else. So your personal world is associated with you as an individual. And the special thing about the personal world is that your personal world, yet being different from all individuals that came before you, that's around you, and will come after you, there's a commonality that is found between all individuals in their personal world, which Carl Jung coined the term the collective unconscious, where general archetypes come up such as a mother, a father, a king, a queen, the jester, which is like a joker, the warrior archetype, which before it'd be like knights and nowadays it'd be soldiers. So yeah, we all share these things collectively, and due to the fact that your personal world is highly subjective, we look at things differently. That's naturally how things work. And also another example that was stated in the book that was pretty good was that if you said that you were in pain, somebody else outside you can't say that you're not in pain because they don't feel it. That's what makes the personal world truly unique. Focusing on the number 2 of the 5 obvious philosophical facts is these normally work together, and that being the mind and the body. The disharmony that's coming to play nowadays is people, mind, and body are not working together. They're opposing each other. People, mind, and body, the mind is wanting to do one thing and their body is doing another. The mind is telling them things that they're not. Another thing is the ability to focus. Our ability to completely give ourselves to a task at hand is dwindling, and our attention spans are shrinking. due to the fact of overstimulation and lacking self-control, and putting a cap on our inner gates. Our inner gates is anything that breaks through our senses. So the things that we see and the things that we hear. So the intangible versus the tangible, another duality. You have things that you can see and things that you cannot see. The third philosophical fact is your body is physical and thus publicly observable. So the things that's observable, that I'm pointing to with intangible and tangible, that being tangible, obviously for this fact of the matter is, my bad, that being body parts. So your eyes are the physical things that's observable, but sight is intangible. Your ears are physically observable, that being tangible, but what's intangible is sound. Taste is intangible, but your mouth is tangible. What else? Any of the senses, for the most part, what you smell is intangible, and your nose is tangible. So when the one thing that I talked about with the intangibles, and those are senses relating to the physical world, but what about the senses relating to the internal world that's happening within your souls, within your dreams, within your intuition? How do you direct your senses inwardly towards that? And how do you distinct those things in your personal world so you don't get confused with one and the same thing, as if they're one and the same thing as you? That's extremely difficult, but at the same time, that comes with observation. And so many people are lacking this sort of observation. What's happening outside of them, with things that they can definitely see, with things that they can definitely feel, touch, smell, hear, it becomes even more difficult to detect that inwardly within yourself. That's why I say detach from your thoughts and your feelings. And that doesn't mean don't have any thoughts and don't have any feelings. It means that when thoughts and feelings do arise, just observe them and embrace them when they come and watch them, which is extremely deep exercise, and it takes mindfulness more than awareness. It takes mindfulness to be able to do that and have quality over your ability to observe what's happening in your inner world. That's extremely important to get to know yourself. But that's also very important to get to know the world that's happening outside of you simultaneously. Because you live in between both. You live in between what's physical, and you also live in between what's spiritual. And by the end of in this book, they were talking about dualism by the end of the first lecture. And how can the mind and body be linked if they come from two opposing things? Which is a great question, and it also led to the term dualism. So, another thing, I'm gonna actually read what it says in here, because I have it like right here, actually. So it says, if My bad. I'm over here blacking out. Why do we think the obvious philosophical facts are true? Which is a great, great question to ask. And according to Cartesian dualism, the mental and physical are entirely different realms. One is a realm of things that obey physical laws and occupy space. Another is a realm of ideas, sensations, and feelings that don't exist in space. If those realms were entirely distinct, it would seem that nothing mental could cause anything physical, and nothing physical could cause anything mental. But we know that the mental does affect the physical. Our desires results in physical behavior. We know that the physical does affect the mental. Physical events in the world affect our beliefs and feelings. The completely separate realms view of dualism must therefore be wrong. Which is a great point. Which is a very, very great point. They oppose each other. But at the same time, they are linked to each other because how you think and how you feel causes you to maneuver and express yourself in the world, which takes shape in your actions and your behaviors. And what's happening in the world also in the same breath affects the way that you view yourself and view the world and the feelings and thoughts that you have and the ideas and your imagination that you have. They go hand in hand. They literally go hand in hand. And this is where that term monad comes from for me, because it represents a single unit, but within the single unit, you got manyfoldness that comes out of it. And I really want you guys to really think about the stuff that I'm saying right now. There's so much complexity within the simplicity. So, one thing that I wrote down, and I talked about this in times past, is that science and religion oppose one another, but I'm noticing the stories of both are similar, and the substance of both come from, or better yet, emanate from the same source. I believe it traces back to a single unit, which is that monad I've been talking about, and that being matter that contained all while also possessing psychic and material qualities that's both conscious and unconscious. And this world is filled with different qualities, but within qualities of negative and positive ups and downs, you got that one unifying thing. So it could be hot somewhere in like South America, Mexico, Texas if you're in the States. Or it could be extremely cold if you go up north to like Alaska, Greenland, somewhere deep in the north of like Russia. But within that thing between the hot and the cold temperature is simply temperature. Those are just qualities that's talking about the same thing. Seasons, just stating where the sun is at compared to the earth. But you got fall, you have summer, you have spring, and you have winter. But within those four are all different qualities of one thing, which is seasons. Just like you have the daytime, nighttime, and in between you have the dawn and you have dusk, which transition is like the transition period between night and day. But at the same time, it's just telling you what 24 hours is in the sequence of what that day entails. And that's the same thing, like I said, going back to the macrocosm and microcosm of everything in the universe. That's the same thing as just a one unified source and one unified force that connects all things. And you have to get to the center of your being to know what connects all things. And the center of your being is connected to the center of everything that's always been created. And every single day is walking that tightrope of staying in that fine line to know that you're a part of one body. And the deception comes from you thinking that you are not a part of any of this and none of this makes sense. You have to find order and meaning within your life. And from finding that order and meaning within your life, there you go, purpose. The light within. But know what part you play within this whole that you're living in. You have to know. It's been a while, but it's about to get biblical. Indeed. Where I'm about to read from is 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 12 through 20. Where St. Paul is talking about one body with many members. Which goes to that thing of me talking about the simplicity that comes before manyfoldness. And knowing your part within the whole. So he says, for just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranges the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. We live in a unified force. And the one thing to go back with observing nature, it's interesting to see that a tree would never confuse itself with any other living thing. A tree would never confuse itself with saying that I'm not a tree, I want to be a bird. I wasn't born to be a tree. I was born to be something else. Just like a fish is not born to be a polar bear. Its purpose was to be a fish. And I could go on and on with these examples. This is why I say it's important to observe natural life, because this seems like it happens more than ever with us as human beings, that we come into this world. If for some odd reason, some of us be like, man, I'm lost and I wasn't meant to be this person. I have to be something else. False identity comes from this, and lack of awareness to who we are internally is where the problem and the root lie. And we're all different members that's a part of one body. So the analogy for this is, if you are an eye to the body, be the eye to the body. Don't be the ear to the body. And not everybody could be the eye to the body. There needs to be an ear so the sense of sound works. And that's where the purpose comes from. Know the part that you play in this whole, the part. And do the best that you can to fulfill that part in this whole. Do the best that you can. It's challenging, like I said, when the world try to tell you anything and everything of what you are and what you're not. And some of the influences of this world will pull you in a direction when you think you are what they're telling you when you're really not. This is why discernment is extremely important now more than ever. Because we live in echo chambers of information. And most people don't leave their echo chambers. And they get corrupted and brainwashed when hearing certain things and seeing certain things. And it's a deceptive form of what the truth actually is. And you need to figure that out for yourself first and foremost. And once you do, you'll know the service that you must provide in this world. Being one of the members of the body. Play your part. Play your part. I know, for me, like I said, it was incredibly difficult to figure out my way when I was lost in spirit and truth, first and foremost, and I was trying to force my will into being what I thought I was supposed to be. And I was heading in the wrong direction. Until my spirit aligned with the truth, until my spirit accepted high-key Christ, if I want to be straight up, in the light of God, that's when my efforts started getting redirected. And it was getting redirected inwardly first. Because it dropped in my spirit that I can't will nothing of myself. There's a higher power at play. And I must fall in line to what that higher power is. And by doing that, everything will work in my favor. And not only that, if it's working in my favor and I'm aligned to the spirit of truth, it's going to harmoniously work in the favor of all living things. So be a blessing to the world by first accepting a blessing that comes from within, first and foremost. Don't be a curse to the world. Because that not only adds curses to you, but it adds curses to people around you. And most likely, people added that onto you already as is because of how corrupt society has been. Has always been. And it's only getting worse, people. It's only getting worse. But until then, you got to play your part to the best of your ability. You have to. Because what's natural is that philosophical fact number 2. And a philosophical fact number 2 is that your mind and body normally works together. It's abnormal for your mind and body not to work together. And this is what causes premature death. This is what causes suffering. And this is what causes misery, because the creator that created all things didn't intend for your mind and body to not cooperate with each other. So it must cooperate with itself within the spirit, and then it must cooperate with itself in the physical. Because even though the two have opposite natures, they don't oppose each other. They don't. Because your eyes were meant to see and your ears were meant to hear. They go together. And like I said, one is intangible and one is tangible. Your eyes are tangible because that's something that's seen and observable world, and your ears are tangible because that's what's seen in an observable world. But you can't see sight, and you can't necessarily hear sound. Well, you can. That kind of didn't make no sense of what I said. But yeah, sound is intangible and sight is intangible. And you need certain things to be working within yourself in order to detect these things that's undetectable. And they're put in place for those reasons. Your mind and body normally work together. So have your mind and body work together how it's supposed to. And by this, you doing this and you being harmonious in the universe, you're adding something new to the universe in a helpful way. And also making it work in a certain order that it was always intended to work in. All of these things that came before us, trees, water, air, they needed to be in place in order for us to be what we are right now. Keep that in mind. Really keep that in mind. And by your mind and body working in order and working together how it's supposed to, then you will be on your way. It sounds easy, but it isn't simple. It sounds easy, but it isn't simple. God bless y'all on y'all journey. And solve the mind and body problem. And have your mind and body work together as it naturally is created to do. They're not supposed to oppose each other. Until next time, folks, we're going to be getting more so into the service part of things and talking about building that foundation up. We've been talking about the building blocks, but actually building the foundation to go from ideas to results. I thank y'all for tuning in for another podcast episode. Until next time, I really, really appreciate everybody that constantly is continuing to listen to these messages, man. I really appreciate it. If you like it, share with other people, discuss this. And yeah. Thank y'all, man. God bless y'all. And last but not least, serve your purpose